All right. Hello, professionals. My name is Rico Aladdin, and I'm the founder of Professional Lunch. Today, I have a great guest on the podcast, and her name is Jodee Bock. She is an author, a coach, a speaker, a business consultant. Jodee, please stop me if I'm missing something because you have a lot to your title. You have a lot to your
Good,
title.
that's good.
A business consultant specializing in leadership and communication and accountability. To her latest book, for the purpose of this episode, I'm gonna say the full name of the book is the book is called Just Give a Shit. And I think that we all can kind of think of this title and look at our lives and ask ourselves, are we giving a shit? So for the purpose of this episode, we're gonna keep the name of the book, the title of the book, the way it is. Okay, we don't
I love
usually
it.
curse on the podcast, but for this episode, we're gonna do that. Jodee, welcome to Professional Lunch. Please introduce yourself for the Professional Lunch audience.
Hi, Rico. Thank you so much for having me on your show. You did a good job of saying what I do. I work with a lot of organizations that either know what they want or know that what they have is not yet what they want. So that's a distinction that a lot of people don't jump into. They know something's wrong, they don't know exactly what it is, and so they want some guidance to maybe shift something around. And once in a while, people are like, nope, we need to get better at communication or leadership or something specific. So I can help with a lot of those kinds of conversations. And what's interesting about the work I've been able to do, especially for the past 3 or 4 years, I am no expert. I don't have to be an expert in anything. I am an expert, I guess, in understanding people, not necessarily what they do, but who they are. And that's how I can help best, I think.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, the Professional Lunch podcast has a very specific goal, which is to give young professionals, a window into the careers of those who are successful. And whenever I meet with a professional, the first thing I'm curious about is how they get started, and to get to where they are. What did they do to get to where they are today that makes them successful? So this question is to you. How did you get to be doing what you're doing right now?
No, it's a funny journey. And
Yeah.
for young professionals, I just want to let you know that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do right this minute.
Yes.
That's such a fallacy that you come out of high school, you come out of college, and you just have to have your path in place already. If I had done that, I would be in such a different place than I am now because of what I thought I wanted to do back when I was graduating from college. I thought I wanted to be a sports information director at a university.
Oh,
And I am nowhere near that right now. I mean, I don't do anything close to that for a profession. I'm very involved in sports still because I love it, but not because it's what I thought I needed to do. So I got here through a series of, at the time, I would have called them unfortunate events. But in hindsight, it's been
yeah.
very fortunate because I followed my heart, I think. And I got let go from some organizations or got freed up from organizations where I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then the more I got into the doing of things, the less I felt the opportunity to be who I knew I wanted myself to be. So the business I'm in now, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't mean to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I just had to pay attention and then go where my heart and head led me.
Okay. Wonderful. So you mentioned that you're helping businesses in that sense. So I'm curious to know, how are you currently helping businesses, whether with their personnel or with their team?
Yeah. So I would always like more clients,
Yeah.
but the clients
Yeah.
I'm currently working with, I'm doing coaching, which a lot of times organizations don't know exactly what coaching is. Some do, some don't. And they think of coaching as kind of a, I don't know, touchy-feely kind of thing. But so what I do, I call it one-on-ones. So I'll have one-on-ones with executives or leaders within organizations to help them kind of determine where they are and then where they would rather be, or so they continue on the path they're on, or take an alternative path. And sometimes we just need an objective third party to listen to us, and somebody to give us some space to work things out. That's what I do with clients that are contracting me to work. I also do keynote speaking and facilitation of different kinds of book studies. You've been part of that with me, Rico,
Yeah.
to learn some principles and learn some of the limiting beliefs that we might not even know are keeping us from being the best. It could be parents, community members, employees, we could be. Sometimes we have unconscious limiting beliefs. So I help shine some light on that.
Wonderful. One thing that stood out to me when I check out your website is dialogues that matter. Dialogue that matter. So how do you define dialogue that matter? That
Well, that's
matters.
kind of, yeah, that's a tagline for my podcast.
Okay.
So a lot of times I think that things that matter are things that matter to the individuals who are engaging in them. So I use the term dialogue very distinctly. Dialogue is the willingness to suspend previous assumptions in order to learn something. So if we agree to do that in our meetings at work or anywhere we're having interactions with people, if we agree to suspend our previous assumptions for the time we're together so we can learn something, those are the kinds of dialogues that I think are the ones that matter. So if we get together to complain about something we don't like, I guess that's okay, but that's not what I do. If we're going to complain about something, then we need to have at least the potential for a solution. And that's where we can come together with others who can see things differently than what we can see for ourselves.
Wonderful, wonderful. So can you share an example of a memorable dialogue or conversation that you had that has a profound impact on you in your career?
Me personally, in my career, I have been a lot, to be honest, because
Okay.
I now at this point in my career, I'm sort of curating my life so that those are the kinds of dialogues I have. And I had one today, just before this. Actually, I've had two today. I
Wonderful.
have my own podcast, and so I interviewed. I would call her a young person. She's into her career now, so she's not right out of college, but she's going to be 35, so not really old. And I interviewed her for my podcast, and so
Okay.
that conversation was really impactful because I have known her since she was 20. So I've
Wow.
known her for 15 years and I've been able to follow her career. And now, as a guest on my podcast, I got to ask her questions that she might have asked me when I was mentoring her in early in her career. So those are always really profound because as long as I'm in a dialogue, I'm open to learning something from someone else. So I
Yes.
could say almost everyone I have has that impact on me if I show up in that space.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is kind of similar to the first question, but how do you handle high-stake conversations effectively? I don't want to say difficult, but high-stake conversation. If you're talking to like a CEO or somebody who is in a very high leadership position of some sort, how do you handle that?
Well, if they're coming to me, I mean,
Hmm.
it's not like we just ran into each other and we have a random conversation. If they're actually coming to me as someone to help them facilitate that, the best thing I can do is listen without an agenda.
Yeah.
And so if I bring something with me to the conversation, meaning prepare this statement or prepare this way of seeing something before I have the interaction, then I'm coming in with a bias.
Yes.
So the thing I can do that I feel is most effective is to just continue to be open and curious.
Yeah, so you're talking about active listening with a very fresh mindset, not really having any preconceived response to whatever the situation might be. Did I get
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah. Unless the point of the meeting is bring your research, or
Wonderful.
bring your ideas. But if that's not the case, I will listen.
Wow, wonderful. So a good thing that when I'm reading the book that just came out, and we're gonna touch the book a little bit, but one thing I'm realizing is how you have been able to talk about take conversation from conversation to action. And I think that's you know, from take some ideas and bring them to action. And the next question is just about that. And then we're going to talk about the book a little bit. So, how do you encourage people to think beyond their reasons and take action?
Yeah. That's such a good question because it's so easy. We've been so conditioned and programmed to complain about what we don't want. And I'm going to cough just a second.
It's
This is what I got for Christmas, a little tickle in my throat. We've been
it
conditioned and
happens.
programmed. Yeah, I know. We've been conditioned and programmed to find what we don't want because we are so good at that. I don't like this. I don't want this. And so when we continue to do that over and over and over again, the action we take is in reaction to what we don't want. And then we wonder why it keeps showing up. And then we have more to complain about and more to be mad about. And the action we take is fighting, fighting against something. I don't like this thing, so I'm going to fight against it. And what I try to do, at least in conversations, and probably you've noticed in the book too, is the action you're currently taking is producing a result. I mean, bottom line, whatever it
Yes.
is you're currently doing is producing a result. So if you don't want that result, then there needs to be a different action. Otherwise, what you're doing is insanity.
Yeah.
You know, um, whoever said that, Einstein, I think he said, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. So unless you're willing to recognize that you are present for the things that happen in your life, which means you have to take different action, then nothing I could suggest would make a difference anyway, because you've already made up your mind. Not
Yeah.
you, Rico, but a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Wonderful.
I don't
So
give I
go
was just
ahead.
going
Go
to say,
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
don't
Go
give
ahead.
advice. I'm not going to give you advice unless you know that you have a different outcome in mind. And if you're asking me for suggestions or something, I might offer them, but more than that, I'll probably ask another question to get you to action.
Wow. What question would you ask if you can give me an example?
So give me a situation that you would want, let's role play it for a second. What would be
Hmm.
something you would come to me for?
For how do I communicate effectively, for instance? Let's
So
say I
you're
have some idea. Yeah.
Yeah, you're asking me a how question. You're asking me a question that starts with how, which
Yeah.
most young people do. People will come all the time asking, how do I do this? How do I do this? And
Hmm.
my question back to you would be, do you know why you want to do that? Or are you just looking for somebody else's ideas for how to get there? Because I would ask you, let's talk about it more. Why is this important to you? If we're trying to answer the question how before we've thought about the why, then we're going about it probably in a way that's not going to be the most effective.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah, because as I mentioned before to you, I mean, this might be a little selfish on my part. I mentioned to you before I'm building it.
I
I'm
know.
building a mentoring platform. And so there are times that I feel that I should be doing a better job in explaining to people what I'm trying to accomplish with this platform, which is helping a lot of young people connect with others in the area they want to study and to fulfill, their career goals and stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that, I should do a better job in explaining that and showing that to people. So, it's that might sound a little selfish on my part to be
Oh, no, that's great. I love because if it's not real, my
yeah.
podcast is called Circle Up and Get Real. If we're role playing something because we are trying to make something happen, then it
Mhm.
doesn't really have the teeth it could have if we had a conversation about something that really matters to you. And that's why it's not selfish at all. It's actually being real about finding or seeking for solutions for problems that we have. So I don't think that's selfish.
Okay, okay, okay. So now I feel better.
Okay, good. Good.
So, you mentioned Get Real, Circle Up and Get Real, the podcast, but the Get Real part really stick to me during reading the book. So how did you come up with that name?
Oh, that's such a good question. So back in 2020, when if anybody listening, everybody was alive in 2020. It's not that long ago. That
Yeah.
was a really, really, really weird time. And I what was I going to do? I was a consultant with all my business drying up. And so in 2020, it seemed like a good time to kind of rethink everything. What
Yeah.
am I doing? My company was called Box Office Transformational Consulting back then. And I hired a consultant and I said, what should we do? What should happen in this time and place? And he said, I think you need to retire your brand. And that was hard because I liked my brand. And he
Yeah.
said, well, let's just dig in. What's really important to you? And the more I worked with him and he coached me on this, the more I realized that what was most important to me was getting real, being real. So
Yeah.
then we were thinking about real as a like dig in, be real. And he said, well,
Mhm.
if that were an acronym for something, it would have four parts. And what would the four parts be? And so through his coaching, we just dug in and I recognized that this acronym seemed to check all the boxes for what I really, really wanted to do in the next phase of my career. So I rebranded, created Get Real with Jodee Bock. Four elements: radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused became a platform. I created a 6-week course based on those four areas. As you mentioned, this is pretty much what the book is about: getting real, figuring out what it is you truly care about, which the book is give a shit. What do you
Yeah.
give a shit about? And then do something about that. Don't just talk about it.
Wonderful. So, I mean, you just lead to my next question. So, the book, how long did you work on it, and how did you come up with that? Why did you pick that
Hmm.
specific title for the book?
Yeah. So probably this specific book, I would say maybe in May of this last year, um, May-ish, and I had this thought that I wanted to do something with it. But I was reading Tom Peters' book. Tom Peters is a guy I've followed for a long time, and he has a new-ish book he wrote in 2021.
Yep.
He's an older guy now, so it's probably the last book he's going to write. But one of the little sentences or one of the areas of his book was, you just got to give a shit about something. And I went, huh, I like it, Tom Peters. So I sort of stole that idea from Tom Peters, and
Okay.
that's where it was born.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, with that, get real, man, radical, energized, authentic, and learning focus. What do you want to accomplish with this book? And I'm gonna show it. I'll have a link to it in my thing. And thank you for signing the book, by the way. That was really nice. Um, that's your signature there. I know my light is blurring this. I don't think it's so. I probably should have to show a copy in the description or something. But what do you hope to accomplish with this book? It's pretty short, easy to read, and I know like younger generation now have somewhat of a shorter attention span. It's really easy to go through. You can go through that, in just I don't know a weekend if you that if you're somebody like me who will go through a few pages and then put it down and then another few pages. So, what do you hope to accomplish with putting this book together?
Well, as you know, and you know me well enough to know, Rico, I don't have trouble talking about things.
Yeah.
do speaking for a living too. So this book was really short. And for me, I could have written a lot more. But as you said, people have shorter attention spans right now. So the book is something that I hope to get into people's hands to at least plant a seed. Now, at the end of every section of the book, there are 2 pages for writing.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that people will not just read the book and throw it away and say, I read the book, or not, throw it on the shelf or whatever and say, I read it. Well, this is not a book that you just read and put on the shelf because then you'll just have that book is good for shelf help, not self help, right?
Yeah.
You got to do
Ooh, I
something
love
with
I,
this.
I love that.
Yeah,
Shell. Yeah.
shelf help. So my hope is that people will actually read it. Yes, read it in a weekend. Easy, easy, easy. But it takes a lot longer to process the information. I'm hopeful that they will write. They will start journaling some of those ideas. What did this spark for me? And then I guess bigger picture, any of the sections of the book could be used for a workshop or a deeper dive or could be tailored for a keynote or for something some organization might want specific to their industry. So this is like you said, such an easy short book to get into the hands of people. It doesn't cost very much. It's really it's pretty cost effective. And I'm hopeful, again, that people will do something with this, not just read it or think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so while we're talking about the book, we're gonna continue, but we wanna make sure that we give the audience an opportunity to know where to get the book and how they can get it so that they can get their hands on it. And I know Christmas and the holidays over, but we still have it's still important in many ways to find a book. Just give a shit about something in your life. It can be your hobby, it can be your profession, it can be your career, it can be your family, your whatever it is. You just got to give a shit, care enough to go do something about it. And so that's the book that can help you do that. So we're gonna make sure we'll put a link in the description. And Jodee, tell I'm saying this from this end, but I want you to really tell the people how to get a hold of the book and wherever it's being sold right now.
Right. So if you live in Fargo, it's sold in Ferguson's Books, downtown Fargo, in independent bookstore here. I have them myself, so I can sell them to people if they want me to send them. Amazon's the easiest,
Yeah.
so it's available on Amazon. You just do a search for, just give a SH asterisk T. If you
Mm-hmm.
spell it out like that, you'll find it. There's a Kindle version, and on Monday I will be recording the audio, so there will also be an
Ooh,
audio version.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so I understand this is you have many other books. You have three other books or four? Three.
I have a lot. I don't know. I think I've
Okay.
written parts, all or parts of 8 or 9, maybe.
Really, really. So I mean, this is your latest.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite among the others that we're not showing here?
You only have one child, right? So you can't say if you had two children and I asked you which one was your favorite, how could you answer that question? Uh,
Okay, I guess that was not fair. That was not fair. You can't really pick and choose one. Okay, but definitely I would like the professional audience to check out your collection and go on your site. I think can you spell your website? Can you just say what the
yes.
website is? Mhm.
JodeeBock.com. It's just JodeeBock.com.
Mhm.
And there is a tab that says Jodee's Books. So I think there are 6 books on there that they can uh, get through Amazon.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I really wanted to just give this book a shout out because I think that's gonna help quite a few folks, especially because it's a short, to the point things that can help you in your day-to-day life. Uh, let's switch now on your coaching and leadership and coaching. So what? Tell me a little bit about the your time getting the certification in extreme leadership, and how this influenced your coaching.
Yeah. That's a good question. I was coaching before I got my extreme leadership certification. So
Mhm.
I think it didn't create my coaching platform, but it enhanced it.
Oh,
So extreme leadership is with Steve Farber, and he is the person who wrote the foreword in this latest book. He's
yeah.
become a really good friend of mine. I love his writing. I love the way he approaches the world. And so when I got the certification with his organization, I learned a lot about leadership specifically, but I also made some connections with some humans that are, when you find your people, it just changes things. So when I found this group of people who, it's almost like family when you get to the point where you're like, oh, I can put my shoulders down. You people get me. You are my people.
Yeah.
This is who I met through Steve Farber's work with the Extreme Leadership certification.
Wonderful, wonderful. And again, sometimes while I'm having professional lunch, there are some things that I'm always on the lookout for. I'm looking for those one, two, three things. What else? For instance, if I say, what qualities, give me three qualities that you believe are essential for effective leadership today.
So I'm going to give you the three that I have been so interested in the last 2 years since I've been reading a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And
Oh,
in
okay.
that book, specifically, the three characteristics would be open,
Mm-hmm.
curious, and committed to learning.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
If we have those three characteristics as leaders in anything, The distinction between, they call that conscious leadership, being conscious. The distinction between that and unconscious is the distinction between being open, curious, and committed to learning, and being closed, defensive, and committed to being right.
Ooh, man, I love it.
So those three, I'm telling you, anybody listening to this, if you can notice for yourself when you go unconscious, when you find yourself being closed, defensive, and
Yep.
committed to being right, and you can go, whoa, this doesn't feel right. I want to shift to be conscious. Then you will be in that space that I think, golly, the world could use so much more consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
Open,
Well,
curious, committed to learning.
well, Judy, can you share a success story of your, of your experience, from your experience, executive coaching experience?
Personally or for a client?
For it can be for an individual, it can be for a client, it can be anything that you are able to share with the professional lunch audience. I don't want anything that is going to be, somewhat
Yeah.
invading and
So
stuff.
I was coaching, it's been a couple of years I've been working with an executive, and he, I see his growth. I see what happens in our coaching, and I notice for him, the changes in him. He might not notice them himself as much.
Hmm.
Um, Yet when I point out something like, so when you said, I'm trying to think of a specific example with this guy, but okay, you told me that you struggle with this person who you coach, or because he coaches people too. Um, Tell me what happened when you said this or did this, and he'll go, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about that before."
Wow.
And I'll say, "Well, you just told me this. I'm just reflecting back to you what you just told me." And he'll say, "But I never, oh." So when somebody says, "I never thought about it like that before," it's just because they only see what their eyes see. They can't possibly get a different perspective. They're doing the best they can with what they know. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just reflecting back what I'm hearing them say. And they think I'm brilliant and profound, and I'm not. I'm just telling them how brilliant and profound they are.
You are
But
brilliant, Jody.
well, who has that space, Rico, in their lives
Yeah.
that they actually have somebody who's willing to reflect back to them? And
Yeah.
sometimes it might be, did you real not this isn't true for you, Rico, but
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
guy, I would say, do you realize that you say I have to a lot? I would say to him, do you realize that you say that you have to do this thing? And he said, well, no, I don't. And I said, well, there, you just said it. I have to. And he'd notice. And I said, I'm just wondering if you really believe you have to, or if we could shift that to you're choosing to. And
Yeah.
just that little thing, he the next week came back and said, I noticed that I say have to all the time. And he said that just that shift for me was profound because now he's making choices instead of feeling like he's stuck. And it really wasn't anything profound. But for him, I mean, it was to him, but it changed the way he was being with his family. It changed the way he was being with the people in his work. And so how would you know that? You're doing the best you can on your own. How would you know unless somebody else pointed that out for you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful, wonderful. So, based on what you say now, how can leaders inspire their team to really, take action when they are noticing some of those blind spots, and stay motivated too?
I think the leaders need to go first, in my opinion.
Mm.
So if the leader is pointing out something in his or her people that they're leading, but not doing that themselves, then they're reading from the textbook instead of demonstrating their lived experience. And as a leader, I believe your demonstration is way more powerful than the words you use. So when you lead by demonstrating, when you lead by going first, you have a much better opportunity to make an impression on the people around you than if you're just telling them what to do.
Well, I mean, that's you answered my next question. You just answered going first. That's one of the way you can inspire people. You can just be the example that you want others to follow. So that makes a lot of sense. So, and the next question is really about personal and professional developments. And you kind of in a way, if you are giving, when you talk about give a shit in the book, is really a way to help people uncover some of the things that they can do to improve their lives by focusing on something. And if it doesn't work, you can move on to the next thing, right? So how do you approach helping people uncover their life purpose? Is that through those coaching one-on-one? Or is that, is there a different way? How do you do it? How do you help people uncover their life purpose?
It's a big question. Life purpose feels kind of daunting to people if they've never thought about that before. So
Hmm.
I would break it down and not make it feel so overwhelming, like I have to
Yeah.
figure this one big thing out. But we start with, what do you love? What brings you joy? Those are really easy questions to have when we separate it from the work we do.
Yeah.
So if I could say, like, people might come to me because my certification for my coaching is in life purpose and career. And so they might come to me because they're upset or frustrated with their career. I don't like what
Hmm.
I'm doing. Okay, great. So are you ready to leave your job right now? No, I need the money. Okay, great. So are you willing to look for something that brings you joy at the job you currently have? No, it sucks. Okay, great. Well, that right there tells me that you're not open. You're not open, curious, and committed to learning. So
Mm.
unless you recognize that you're open, committed, and curious now where you are, you're going to take yourself wherever the next job is, and you're going to probably see the same thing you see now, which is a frustration and upset. So what we'll do is try to find one tiny little thing that brings you joy, even in the midst of this job you don't like.
Yes.
Because if you're able to find a little piece of joy where you are, that is a clue to how you're wired. Maybe, what
Yeah.
you're here to do. What's the important work you're here to do in the world? Those are exploration questions that, we'll get closer. We may not get the answer in one or two sessions, but we'll get closer.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Judy, it's, everything that you are telling me right now, are these things that you get to learn by experience, or is that something that you get to learn from somebody else?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I've been doing this for so long that I
Yeah.
don't really remember where all the insights have come. I like to give credit when I learn something from someone.
Hmm.
And at some point, it becomes part of who I am because
Yeah.
it has produced my questioning, my curiosity has produced a result that I want over time. It's like it's a journey. And when you get to the place where you're like, ooh, that worked, then you do it again. That worked, and you do it again. I think experientially, I've
Hmm.
learned a lot of these things. Again,
Oh.
going back to what I said earlier about reading from a book, if you're a
Hmm.
leader who reads from a book or has gone to a class where they tell you you have to do X before you've actually embodied it yourself, people can kind of sniff that out. They know when you're being real and when you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So, you've had such a long experience, and so what has been the most important lesson you've learned from your professional career?
The one? I only get one, Rico?
Okay, give me two, three.
Well, I'll pick something. I don't know if it would be the
Okay.
best. Um, I think it's to listen to myself.
Yeah.
Be be confident in how I'm wired or what my authenticity would say instead of believing that just because someone doesn't understand me that I have to change. And for so long in my life, I thought if I was different from everybody else, then I had to change. Then I was
Hmm.
wrong. I was bad. And one thing that I've learned is when I'm authentic, when I'm real, when I'm open, curious, committed to learning, and when I say something like, man, I learned that from Rico, that was such a good thing. I want to change my mind because I've learned something.
Hmm.
That shows my authenticity. That shows that I'm not going to put my flag in the ground and say, this is the way it is forever and ever and ever, and believe this because I said it one time. I've learned that people will much more readily connect with me if I am vulnerable and open and honest rather than if I think I have to be right.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, as you know, professional lunch is about helping those young people who are launching their careers. So now we get to the last few minutes of the conversation. What advice do you have for those that are in college trying to find a career path right now?
Yeah. Find a mentor.
Mm.
And I think that sounds so easy. And it really is easy. If you're a student and you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, how am I supposed to find a mentor? Open your mind up to the possibility that mentors are just waiting for you to find them.
Yeah,
Because in that space of possibility, instead of the probability that this is really hard, I'm mentoring two students right now, and it is so much fun and it's so, um, I was going to say easy. It's just a conversation.
yeah.
There, there are so many of us in later in our careers who would love nothing more than for a student to ask us questions.
Yeah, that's I can second that. I can vouch for that because I always have some folks who are, it's just I'm figuring out because it's so hard for them to ask. That's the problem. It's so hard for them to ask, the student to ask. And like you said, there are a lot of people who are waiting to help them out. Jody, I wish we have maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours for this conversation today because that is so good. I had a lot of fun. But we get to the point where we have to cut it a little short. But what are some of the last few words you have for the professional lunch audience before you can tell after that you can tell them how to get the book and everything? Just a reminder, a refresher on how they can get their hands on the book.
Yeah, I think you opened the door right at the very end when you said to ask. And
Hmm.
if you think about, I don't know how you are all raised, but in my upbringing, I learned about a Bible verse that said, ask and no, knock and the door shall be open to you, seek and you shall find, ask and you'll find, whatever it is. Ask, seek, knock.
Yeah.
Ask, seek, knock.
Hmm.
ASK.
Hmm.
Everything starts with the ask. The door
Yes,
won't open if you don't knock on it.
exactly.
So the ask, what do you have to lose by asking? So students, anybody, young people, ask. Be willing to knock on the door. Ask, and then listen for who is answering.
Wonderful, man. On that note, I mean, I know you have to ask, the worst that can happen is somebody saying no, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, oh my goodness, Jody, thank you so much for being on Professional Lunch today. Like I said, we are friends. Let's not make this the last time you come on Professional Lunch. I would like to have you again, to chat a little bit more about things that young people can do to launch their careers and also find a way to give a shit about something,
Yes.
right? And so we
Yes.
will get to get together again to do that. But I want to thank you so much for being on a Professional Lunch today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah. So I have this and I've always had this. It's just on my desk and it's waiting. Oh
Wonderful.
wait, it's not in there we go.
Yep, it's on it. It's on it. I got it. Oh my goodness. As you can see, I enjoy talking to people who are doing great things in the community. And you are one of them. You are helping leaders, you are helping businesses, you are helping individuals. You have helped me a great deal. You have met me. We have multiple meetings and in chat. And so I just want you to know that I'm grateful for your time, your expertise, your advice, and everything in between, because this is what I get to, this is why I love this community. Sometimes I value people I value people's time because we all have 24 hours in the day. If someone take one from their busy life to share it with you, then you better give that, that better be important to you. So I'm really grateful for you and for everything that you have taught me, all the meetings that you have granted me, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for being on Professional Lunch today. So one more thing I wanted to do is really to give you a chance to let the Professional Lunch audience know how they can contact you, whether it's for speaking engagement, whether it's for coaching one-on-one, whether it's for your books, or maybe they just want to be on your podcast, whatever the case may be. Talk to the Professional Lunch audience right now on how they can reach out to you and what are some of the services and even product that you are offering.
Okay. The easiest way is my website, jodeebock.com, jodeebock.com. Every link I think I have is on that page,
Mhm.
including my Monday membership. I have a membership group called the Enlightened Leadership Lab, which is where we have conversations like this. Spaces where I guess you could call it group coaching, but it's not really coaching, it's emergent conversations that are around a theme. And
Mhm.
when people come into that space, they share, just like you and I have done. They share their insights and their what they're working on. That's a really fun space to be. You've also been part of a Think and Grow Rich mastermind group that we've studied the book, Rico. I do other things like that. Studying the book Think and Grow Rich is usually where we start. And then there are other books we've studied in different groups. As you said, speaking engagements, facilitations, my books, all of those are available on my website through links.
Wonderful, wonderful. Get yourself a copy of the Just Give a Shit book. I think that you're gonna love it, just as I did myself. Jodee, thank you so much for being a part of the professional lunch family because now you are part of us now. You're gonna be a mentor for us. You're gonna be part of our team because you are a guest on the podcast and sharing your experience, sharing your expertise, sharing your services with the professional lunch audience. For that, we are grateful to have you today. It's such a pleasure to have you here. So, like I said, you know, you are one of the coolest people coolest professional in the region. So, it's good to have you on
Rico,
for
you
sure.
say that to everybody.
Well, the people that I talk to, they are cool, and
That's
you
true.
fit right, right with that group. So,
Can I just
uh,
jump in just 1 second and say that, Rico, here's what you just said that is really profound for
um,
your students and anybody who's, young and up and coming in your career. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And you
hmm,
just pointed that out, Rico, by saying you're the common denominator among all the people in your circle. So if
yep,
you've got cool people and cool friends, it's because you are attracting that. And I
yep,
think we forget that sometimes when we look around
yeah.
and go, I don't have any friends, nobody cares about me. Well, who are you being? Because that's what you're
Yes.
attracting.
Wonderful. Wow, man. That is deep, Judy. That is deep. That is really deep. So, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today again, for being on Professional Lunch again, for being on Professional Lunch. And Jody, I would like to have you again sometimes in 2025, sometime this year. Can be
I'd
in the
love it.
summer, it can be sometime this year. I would like to have you on Professional Lunch again, even maybe at an event or something. But I definitely would like to collaborate with you on, on something because it's really fun. It was really fun to have you, to talk to you and to learn more about what you do and how you help others. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Rico. Thanks for asking. Take care,
Yeah.
everybody. Happy New Year.
Wonderful. Now, this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day. Thank you, Judy.
Perfect. Perfect.